Good evening and welcome to Rock, Paper, Hand Grenades. I'm your host, Joshua Solomon. Once again, with me, sitting in a slightly different position tonight, is the Honorable J.P. Marzullo. How you doing, J.P.?
I'm doing fine. This nice spring day we had. It was beautiful.
Oh, yeah.
I don't know how this has happened, but it must be, I don't know, climate change, I guess.
It's a tease. It's a tease.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
I'm a little... Actually, I've planned a motorcycle ride tomorrow.
Oh,
right?
Perfect day.
Yeah,
70?
Tomorrow's supposed to be in the 70s.
Yeah.
So we're going to get our last one in.
Yep.
Right? I think last year I actually got a ride in November.
Wow. Well, you're not that far away from November.
Yeah. I mean, but at this point in time, when you get a good day, it's like, okay, this one's going to be your last one. You have to prepare for it.
Exactly.
Right? So,
exactly.
So the wife and I are going to get on the machine tomorrow and make an evening of it.
That's awesome.
With a couple of
Where you headed? Any place particular? Or?
Actually, one of our favorite places, the Homestead in Merrimack.
Oh, okay.
They always have live music. It's a nice place. And we take a nice long route through Merrimack and Amherst, I believe. And
there's still leaves on the tree that have some color, so that'd be nice. Yeah. It'd be fun.
Along with climate change, let me do the sponsors. Okay, sure. Sponsored by the Wilson Hill Pistol Club, 1732 Lakeshore Road in Manchester, New Hampshire, the oldest sports shooting club in the state of New Hampshire. We have open membership. You can become a member by showing up to our monthly meeting, which is on the first Wednesday of every month at 7 p.m., which is next Wednesday, directly after this show. There's no waiting list. It's open membership. Anybody can join. There are rules, of course. We do need to make sure that, you're not crazy or a terrorist or having that. Yeah, or anything. You need to make sure that you're safe. So there is a qualification process once you're accepted as a member, et cetera, et cetera. There are two trainings on the calendar. November 5th, which is a Sunday at 9 a.m. is the FAST handgun. FAST stands for Fundamentals and Safety Training. So it is a beginner level firearms course. And then on Sunday, the 12th of November, we have the SATIA Defensive Handgun Level 1, which is the next level up. I've done Defensive Handgun 1, 2, 3. I've done the night shooting courses. They are fun courses.
Nice.
When you get to the end of Defensive Handgun 2, you get into the business of drawing from the holster.
Oh, wow.
And Defensive Handgun 3 gets into speed and awareness, situational awareness, and legal issues. There are legal issues you need to think about if you are carrying a firearm.
Absolutely.
So,
absolutely.
Back to climate change. I read these once in a while, and I keep talking about it. You know my view on the subject.
Yep.
But every couple of weeks, something like this will show up, and I just have questions. All right. And so this story was ancient. This is the headline: Ancient Brazilian rock carvings of human faces revealed along the Amazon River. Okay. So we've known for decades that there are rock carvings in the riverbed on the Amazon, right? But these particular rock carvings are brand new to us. And they're brand new to us because of a drought, and they're blaming climate change for the lowering of the river.
Sure.
Okay.
So,
and anyone who's bought into the climate change baloney says, oh, wow, we are really destroying, the river's the lowest it's been. Right now we've seen these rock carvings that haven't been exposed, and the estimate is anywhere between 1,000 and 2,000 years since these rock carvings have been exposed. That's how old these particular carvings are.
Okay.
1 in 2,000 years. And people will say, oh, my God, global warming. But then I think to myself, well, 2,000 years ago, this river was low enough that humans were sitting on the rocks just sharpening their tools and carving. But there weren't any coal mines and coal plants, and there weren't none of these things. There weren't jets and rockets and all these things that we're told are evil and are causing the planet to warm up and causing the droughts and causing the water to go down. But the water was at that level 2,000 years ago. So what caused it? I'll tell you what caused it. It's the natural cycles of this planet. It happens. And there's nothing we can do to prevent it. There's nothing humans did to create it 2,000 years ago, 4,000 years ago, 5,000 years ago. We can see in the geological record that this planet has been much, much warmer than it is today without the influence of humans. This is a natural cycle.
Yep.
And these are the types of questions that these investigative journalists don't ask or don't address. All right.
Well, it doesn't fit their agenda. We know that. I mean, who was the Swedish girl that
Greta?
Greta. She was in the news the other day for something. I'm trying to remember what it was now.
I know what it was.
Go ahead. What was it? It was kind of silly, but go ahead.
She and a bunch of her unemployed friends, because she dropped out of high school. She's unemployed. She's trying to live off her 15 minutes of fame. Posted a Twitter or Instagram or something of that nature, picture of themselves in their bedroom, their mom's bedroom or whatever, with signs that say, "Free Palestine, we support Palestine."
And that's what it was.
Some, rainbow-colored poster board or whatever.
Yep.
And so they posted that they support Palestine.
Oh, my God.
And the official government of Israel responded to her. And said, it's an official Israeli response from the Israeli IDF, right?
From the IDF.
It's the IDF responded to her and said, Greta, the Palestinians don't use recyclable materials in their rockets.
I love it. Oh, my God. Yeah, I knew she said something crazy. I couldn't remember what it was. And the other thing that was a little frightening to me was this pilot who ate some magic mushrooms and was going to shut the engines off on the plane.
Yeah, the first thought I had of that, because I saw the picture of the guy.
You're a pilot, so.
Yeah, I saw a picture of the guy just a couple hours after it happened.
Okay.
Right? It was before we knew about the magic mushroom business. Right. I saw a picture of the guy, and you look at the guy, you're like, well, he looks normal. Yeah. I know we have preconceptions, but there was nothing abnormal about this person, right? He was an American. He was an older person. He wasn't like a young, dumb moron.
Like a knucklehead.
And he didn't look like a knucklehead. He dressed properly. He was a pilot for an airline.
And he had a very high rating, I understand, from the airlines.
And his life was basically on track.
Yeah.
And so you think to yourself, well, what would make him reach forward and reach for the fire suppression system? Because that's what he tried to do.
Right, he was dreaming of that or something, right?
The initial report was he tried to shut down the engines.
Right.
Well, it's not like he reached up and grabbed the controls and pulled them back,
right?
Which is what they said that Trump was doing on January 6th. He was trying to commandeer the limousine. He didn't reach up and grab the controls. He's sitting in the jump seat, and next to him is a board. It's the emergency board, and there was a fire suppression system, right? Where you say, okay, I got a fire in engine one, so you hit the switch, and all the fire extinguishers inside of engine one just flood it with.
Yeah.
Right? So he went up and he tried to flip all the fire suppression systems, which would have the effect of shutting down all the engines.
Yeah.
There would be an automatic shutdown sequence taking place, and the pilot and co-pilot had to grab him. So I looked at that whole thing. And I'm like, what
possessed him to do that? Right?
Yeah, and then the next day we find out he's high on magic mushrooms. Now the question is, okay, what's someone who's an airline pilot? Yeah. What's he doing messing with crap like that?
Yeah, I mean, it's just like the Chinese let Yellen eat magic mushrooms. Remember on her trip over there? They probably thought they could get some information from her, but obviously couldn't. So it was a waste of good mushrooms on her. But yeah, there's some really strange stuff going on, and that was. But I agree with you. He looked. I saw him on the news today, and he still looked like he was a normal type of person. But he's had some depression, he said, and But there's a lesson learned there. It's that the newscasters once again, didn't get all the facts before they released it.
They jump on it all the time.
Yeah. I mean, it was just like. I know we're going to get into this later, but it was just like. The Israelis bombing the hospital, and it actually was a parking lot, and they never. And so what that caused was, as we both know, is a lot of stress on a lot of Israelis and a lot of lives across the country, and it was the wrong thing to do. But they keep doing it. The New York Times did it again. They didn't retract their statements.
They didn't retract it, but they've had something like 4 articles that are trying to minimize the mistake that they made. Right. It's
instead of just saying we made a mistake. They don't do that, and it's tucked away like on page 45 or something, and you never see it. So. The other side, they count on a story being told, it getting imprinted into the minds of the people, and then if they have to retract it a week later or so, they'll put it on the back page, or it'll be a 5-second clip at the end of the show right before a commercial. However they do their retraction, they'll do it in such a minor way that the original lie sticks with you, and they do it on purpose. It is strategically done that way. Agreed.
But yeah, I mean, I know we have preconceived notions of what people look like and whatnot, but let's be honest with ourselves and not be politically correct. If we look at some of these crazy whack jobs that do crazy things and we see their picture on TV, you can look at it and say, yeah, I can see that guy doing something that dumb. Right?
You're right.
And you can apply that to everybody.
You're right.
Manson, Ted Bundy, all
the serial killers you can put right in that category.
You can say, yeah, I can see that guy doing that, right? And you can do the same thing with Epstein. Yeah, I can see him being a pervert. Right?
Or Hunter Biden. I mean, that's pretty easy to do.
Yes, we're stereotyping and we're taking our preconceived notions, but they work most of the time, right?
And then we're kind of stuck with it. We can't get it out of our minds and stuff like that. Did you hear our great president speak today with...
I only heard a brief piece of it because actually I was watching C-SPAN. And I was waiting for the result of the speaker's vote. And so I was watching C-SPAN, and I wasn't watching the other news channels because I like watching C-SPAN because nobody's running their mouth trying to tell me what to think about what's going on. I get to listen to what's going on
and make your own opinion.
Right. So I was watching C-SPAN, and then I have a chat with the rest of my family scattered all over the country, and one of them said, "Hey, did you hear what Biden just said?" I'm like, "Do you have a link to it?" So no, he's doing it right now. So I flipped over. I didn't even realize he was speaking.
Well, he calls it speaking. I'm not sure whether that's really what it is. I mean, it's very frustrating.
But what I missed what they were trying to tell me that was happening on one of the other channels. Was, apparently he was reading from a teleprompter. And during the reading of the teleprompter, he read the words, "read the whole paragraph." That's an instruction.
I thought that was the last thing he did, the last talk. But this one, he's there with the president. I don't know whether he's the president or what of Australia,
Prime Minister
of Australia.
He was talking
and he's reading off of index cards. He can't even talk to somebody and say that we're behind you. He was talking about the history between Australia and the United States, and we've got your back, and the same old nonsense.
You got to put the leash on him, especially after the fiasco last week at Ramstein Air Force Base. In the entryway of Air Force One. Did you see that one?
I'm not certain.
So he was standing in the entryway of Air Force One. They were on the ground at Ramstein Air Force Base in Germany.
I know they were
after
there.
He had just been snubbed by every Arab nation on his trip to Israel. He went to Israel. I think he met with Bibi once, and then all the
Others canceled the meeting.
snubbed him,
Yep,
right?
absolutely.
And yeah, no one ever snubbed Donald Trump, right?
No.
We had respect, right?
Yep.
This president doesn't have any respect.
No.
They scheduled meetings with him. Even Anthony Blinken, he was supposed to meet one of the Saudi princes a couple weeks ago, and he showed up thinking that the meeting was scheduled in the evening, like 7 in the evening local time.
Yeah.
The Saudi prince snubbed him and made him wait until 10 a.m. the next morning.
Oh, jeez.
So our Anthony Blinken, Secretary of State, yes, was sitting, waiting, twiddling his thumbs, and the Saudis made him do it.
Wow.
That's the lack of respect that we have in around the world right now.
Yeah.
But anyway, in Ramstein Air Force Base, after he'd been snubbed, he was standing doing an impromptu press conference in the entryway of Air Force One.
Okay.
And you could see the camera was right on him. You could see a couple of reporters here, and then standing, in a little entryway, like next to the bathroom or whatever,
Yeah.
was a couple of his aides. And every time he spoke, the aides were like,
Rolling her eyes.
right. It's like, what's he saying now? Because he was completely off script, and
Yeah.
he just decided to start talking to people on the plane, and they totally took advantage of him.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's senior abuse.
Yeah, it is.
I really believe that now. I mean, I feel sorry for him, but I'm very embarrassed for our country, for the members of the military, for the average citizen to have to watch him make a fool of himself and of our country. It's very frustrating.
You say members of the military, and I know what you're referring to is the fact that the President of the United States is the Commander-in-Chief.
Absolutely.
And that is a big deal.
Of course.
There's a reason why. There's multiple reasons why. Not the least of is that millennials are just almost useless at the moment. But there are multiple reasons why every single branch of the military is way behind, like 20, 30% behind on
Way
all of their
off.
recruiting.
Yep.
Right?
Yes.
One of them is that the kind of people who volunteer for the military, both enlistment and as commissioned officers after college, the kind of people that would naturally gravitate towards a career in the military, conservatives,
Yeah.
hunters, right?
Yep.
Children of veterans.
Exactly.
These types of people don't want to be under the command of someone with dementia.
Yep.
They don't have the respect for this man, and so why would I encourage, as a veteran, as someone who has children coming to that age, fighting age, military age, male or female, why would I encourage them to enlist in a military that is as woke and under everything? Yeah, right.
Yes.
I mean, they're destroying every aspect of our military, and no one's batting an eye about it. That's a huge reason.
I agree.
That's a huge reason why we don't have the enlistment rates that we need.
I know this is going to sound crazy, but every time a president is elected, even though they may not be from my party or have the same core values, I want them to do well
microphone. I was watching the video.
Yeah.
The only person who had a microphone was the clerk. Who was asking, right?
Yeah.
And so everybody else had to stand up and yell. That's why you couldn't hear these little mini speeches. People, instead of just voting,
right, they made little speeches.
They made little speeches, right?
So,
and there was only 2 or 3 that really annoyed me, and one of them was on the left side of the aisle, and it was incoherent, and it was abusive, and it was it took a long time, to the point where everybody in the chamber started shouting at this woman.
Oh, wow.
To shut up.
Was it Talib?
And I don't know. I don't remember. And cast your vote. Right?
Yeah.
Because we were only like, at that point, we were only like 2 or 3 votes away from actually having a Speaker of the House.
Yep.
Mike Johnson, by the way, did win 220 votes today.
So, Louisiana.
Yeah, Louisiana.
So the thing that scared the heck out of me, quite frankly, is when I'm driving along, all I kept hearing was Jeffries.
Oh, yeah.
I caught
the Dems
stretch there.
Stayed tight the entire time for all 4
as they
votes.
always do.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that was kind of scaring me. And then I got home and I saw where Johnson had 220, and what was it, 209 for Jeffries, I think.
Yeah.
So
if you were watching the vote, I watched all 4 votes on C-SPAN. But if you were watching any of them, you knew that this one was going to come in long before they reached the milestone. And the reason is because they kept a tally up.
Oh, okay.
Right?
Yeah.
And for the first 3 votes, you could see the tally for Jeffries. It was always the same.
Never changed.
It never changed.
Yeah.
But you could see the tally for the Republican nominee. It would go up, but then there would be
a drop off.
Other, right?
Or they would say present, which changes.
But I could see the tally the entire time.
Okay.
Right? And so we knew, okay, if more than 4 people don't vote for either Jeffries or the Republican nominee, then we know we're done. Right. So right at the beginning. So for this one, there were no others. There were no alternate candidates that were voted for. Every single person in the chamber voted for either Jordan or Jeffries.
Right.
And so as you could see the tally coming in, if you were watching it and you knew that there weren't any non-voters and there weren't any other votes, you knew even at 150 votes that
we couldn't win.
That we were going to win
this time.
Yeah. This time around, you knew.
Well, you mentioned Jordan. That's why I was curious as to you saw it decline when Jordan, not Johnson, was
Johnson. Yes,
you meant Johnson.
I'm sorry.
Right?
Yeah, I meant Johnson.
Okay.
But when Jordan was,
you could see the decline.
You could see the counting up of other votes. That means that some Republicans had defected.
Right.
In this vote today, there were no defections on either side.
Yeah.
Right. And that happens early on in the first 3 votes.
Sure.
Very early on, all the defections, because they roll call alphabetically.
Yeah.
For this one, they were like 3/4 of the way through the alphabet, and there was still nothing.
Nice.
And so you knew, okay, this is it. Everybody's on board this time.
Yeah.
And so it was kind of an
I couldn't see that on the radio.
Exactly. Yeah. And
so
there were long
scare
periods of time where you get Jeffries.
That's what I heard. Yeah.
Because alphabetically, it was a whole bunch of Democrats in a row.
Yes.
Is what it was.
Yeah.
So.
Well, I'm glad we finally have a speaker, and now he's got a really tough job.
He does.
They've all of them have had a tough job, really, but he might pull this off.
Speaker, might even be more of a conservative than even Jordan.
Yeah.
This fella has received an F rating from the Democrats.
Perfect.
On all the right subjects.
Yeah.
Gun control, abortion, right?
Women's rights.
And so, okay, well, if he's got an F from the Democrats, that's perfect.
He's got to be our guy. Right.
He's wants to be very transparent, and he wants to hold people accountable for everything that's going on in the Ukraine as far as sending money. So he's very hard line on that. everything. He's not just going along to get along.
Right.
And I've said it before that I prefer that my Congress be in gridlock. I prefer that things don't happen.
Yeah.
Because, and people say, it took 3 weeks to get a speaker. We were dead in the water. I'm like, you know what? That's 3 weeks of no new spending, no new taxes. That's 3 weeks of no new laws that are taking away my freedoms.
Exactly.
Right? And I've always said that I would prefer to send a Congress down there that does nothing.
So who was
than to send a Congress down there that everybody thinks they want to add something new to the National Register of laws and whatnot.
So, yeah, I'm trying to remember who the know-nothing president was. It wasn't Hoover. One of the presidents did little to nothing. He was a Republican, I think, and I can't remember it now, but I'm sure somebody knows.
Yeah.
And he did very little, and it was great. It was perfect. Everything ran properly, and, he just...
Mm-hmm.
So maybe
so
you're right.
I've always said I would prefer that over a Congress that is just constantly passing new laws that are taking my freedoms away.
Yeah.
I would prefer gridlock.
Yep.
What I'd really prefer is to have a Congress that's going through the entire U.S. titles and just removing garbage that doesn't need to be there.
Yeah,
right?
or
including the IRS. How many pages is the IRS code? Right. So.
Yeah. And also getting rid of some of those things that we don't need, like education department and some of the others that, were kind of added on. And,
I think we've only got one candidate who's kind of basically vowed to get rid of entire departments, and that's Vivek.
Yes, right.
Right?
Exactly.
He's vowed to get rid of entire departments that are, so.
Which I think is difficult to do, first of all, and maybe they just need to be reorganized.
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot going on, and I think the average person, I consider myself an average person, is very concerned about what's going on in the country, and we're very concerned about the Israeli situation. I think China brought in 3 or 4 destroyers into the area, and we have 2.
China's got at least 6 ships in the area.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
I was reading about that, and you could. I guess I can understand it, or it doesn't matter what side I'm on, or what's going on. I can understand it that basically every major superpower in the world is going to have a presence down there, right? We just have to kind of live with that, right? If we're there, then everybody else is. But when I was looking at, where did these ships come from and how they get there so quick? Because it's even at speed, a fleet of military ships takes a while to get somewhere.
Well,
and so I was looking. There's actually, I think it's in Oman, but they showed a map. There's this city in one of the Arab nations, and on the east side of the city is a U.S. joint base with a seaport, and on the west side of the city is a Chinese base. They're literally within 5 miles of each other.
Yeah.
Where we've got a military installation from China and a military installation from the United States. And when soldiers and sailors go on leave, they both go to the same city.
Jeez.
Right?
Yeah.
If they're even allowed to go on leave, I don't know. But in Arab nations, a bunch of sailors who like to drink does not go over well. So I don't know if having been one of those sailors, I know exactly what happens when you're on shore leave.
Exactly.
Anyway. So we started talking about the Middle East, right? So,
yeah.
So I brought up the climate change thing. Let's see. Here's a scary one. 169 people on the FBI's terror watch list have crossed over our open border.
Oh, God.
Right? Those are the people that were caught.
Yeah,
right?
not the getaways.
Yeah, but there's something like 200,000 getaways.
Yes.
So the way they do that is there's cameras. There's patrol vehicles with cameras in the vehicles. There's cameras on the walls. There's cameras on trees and certain places along the entire border with Mexico. And getting them and processing and then releasing them, they can also see from the camera footage and from visual footage that some of them get away. Okay, I saw 10 get away over here while I was taking care of this 25.
Yeah.
Right? Or the camera will see something and nobody got there in time, and all 100 of them go away. So they count those as gotaways.
Right.
We don't know who they are, and we don't know where they went.
Exactly.
Right? But of the people that they caught this year, 169 of them were on the terror watch list.
Incredible.
We have terrorists coming in. So of the people they caught, there's 169 of them, but over 200,000 gotaways at the same time.
Yep.
But that's only at the open border. At the actual border crossings, where you go through customs and you go through border patrol, and they've caught 542 people who were on the terrorist watch list.
Wow.
Okay, so that plus the people that they caught crossing the open desert, right? We're at like 600 and something, almost 700 people on the terrorist watch list who have attempted to come into the country, and we caught them. Yet, there are more than 1.3 million people, gotaways, that have come into this country in the last 3 years.
Yep.
It's incredible. And so, if 600 or 700 of them were bold enough to try and come through in a manner where they were going to be searched and their papers were going to be looked at, right? What did I say, 542?
Yeah.
How many of them crossed the border without trying to get around?
Right.
How many of them crossed the border trying to get around the checks? And how many of them made it? Because there's no way, no matter how you look at it, there is zero chance that every single one of them was caught coming into this country, given the number of people who have gotten in without being checked.
Yeah, agreed. I mean, and, these people will look at things for the long run. We have a tendency to only think in the short run. So they might be planning something for 3 years from now when they have X number of more people that have come in.
And they're not stupid either. They know that we're waiting for it.
Sure.
So they're going to do it when we're not expecting it.
Exactly.
Right? So we're going to be on high alert when whatever happens in the Middle East happens, right? If it happens. I got another theory about that. We're going to say, oh, well, we need to expect this at home. We need to, and then nothing happens at home.
Sure.
And then we get lulled into this sense of
security, that everything's
exactly.
fine, we're under control.
And along that lines, you think, okay, well, these are terrorists. These are radical religious zealots who don't know what they're doing. That's not true.
Exactly.
That is absolutely not true. And I'll tell you this. A story came across today about why we didn't have the intelligence, why Israel was surprised by this business on October 7th. Because, you have the United States military or intelligence complex, you have the Israeli intelligence, the Mossad is the best. The Mossad and the IDF are the best intelligence gatherers on the planet. Exactly. And they didn't know what was going on in their backyard, right? And this business, when that rocket hit that hospital, right, and Israel needed to defend itself, what it did was it exposed their intelligence gathering abilities, because it exposed the fact that the Israelis have cameras inside Gaza that the Hamas don't know about.
Exactly.
All right? That's number one. Number two, the cell phone call that they released between a Hamas agent and a Palestinian Islamic Jihad, PIJ. It's another organization within Gaza that is kind of separate from Hamas, but it's a terrorist organization. There was a cell phone call between the two of them where Hamas was telling PIJ, hey, this was your rocket.
Yeah, right.
Right? And so they released, well, that means that the Israelis are listening in on all their cell phone conversations too. Yep. Right? And so they, in order to defend themselves against that, they released this information exposing the fact that they have this intelligence ability. Yeah, right. And so that's bad, right? Okay, so, but it really doesn't because as they're clearing these things out and as they're gathering more intelligence about the tunnel system that's below Gaza, what they've found, because there are, even though the ground war hasn't started, there have been individual raids into the area, and we know that our hostages are being held in these tunnels.
Sure.
You know what they found inside the tunnels? There's something like 13,000 miles of tunnels.
It's like a
zigzagging through Gaza.
Yeah.
They found landline telephones. They spent the last 5 years with their own telephone system, and that's how they did all their communication so that it wouldn't be monitored. Oh, shit. I missed it. I also...
they should have been bleeped when you...
Sorry about that. That wasn't... I was upset.
Yeah, the call.
The line hung up, so we'll have to wait for him to come back in. So we had a guest calling in, and I missed the call because my mouth was running, and it was running in with bad words too, so I apologize.
We need the bleep thing. That's what we need.
Did you catch that, Brendan? I had a mistake a few years ago, but it got caught and bleeped just in time. Anyway, I apologize. Here we go.
How you doing?
Good evening. Welcome to Rock, Paper, Hand Grenades. Who are we talking to?
Hey, this is Don Bolton calling in. How are you?
Hi, Don. You're talking to Joshua. How you doing? And JP is here with me as well.
Hi, Don. How are you?
Hello, everybody. How are you?
We're doing good.
Good. Don, I think the last time that you were on the show with me was, it was literally the day that Russia invaded Ukraine. So we were on the show, you were on the show here with myself and Gary, and it was about an hour after we finished filming that the news broke about Ukraine being invaded by Russia. And we had spent the time talking about the imminent nature of that particular invasion. We're in another world crisis right now.
Yes. Yeah, they just keep on coming in now, don't they?
Yeah, I don't know what to think of it. I've got my own conspiracy theories. I've mouthed off about them a little bit on this show, but things are getting bad. From a national security standpoint and from world situation standpoint, it's kind of devolving pretty quickly now, isn't it?
Yes, it is. And the history of the Middle East, of course, has been volatile. And since really 1947. When they voted to make Israel its own separate country and bring it out of the UN administrative control, there's been something every decade, and sometimes multiple things within a decade. All the way up to 2023, and that's largely in my mind because many Western countries, and the United States in particular, Israel has its national security concerns, and those are, protection of the homeland and protection of our citizens, and they're focused on that, particularly in the neighborhood that they're in. And then the United States has global concerns, but a lot of countries, they're a bit duplicitous, and the United States is the same. We turn around and we give money to countries in that region that end up funneling that money to terrorist organizations, Hezbollah, Hamas, the Houthis, and they, have been able to maintain their ability to, disrupt and to, kill and attack Israel, and in large part, Israel, has done a great job in managing that. But in this particular case, our foreign policy, in my opinion, led to this, and the legitimacy of this conflict is He goes over there and shuffles around and speaks incoherently, and you got Secretary Blinken, who, is not a tough man, not a tough leader. He doesn't exude confidence. If you just oppose that to Benjamin Netanyahu, who looks determined, and when he talks, you believe him. And the United States just needs to get, its collective you-know-what together when it comes to our foreign policy and our domestic policy, because we look weak to the rest of the world, and we've done things since the Biden administration came into office that solidify that in major competitors' minds. We got Iran giving majority of China giving oil to China, which they rely on. We got Iran giving drones to Russia, to other actors. North Korea giving them missiles, and they're all in collusion, and we're just watching this go on. We just had 12 troops killed because of Iranian drones, and this is something that is very significant for the United States. We are better than this, and we need better leadership.
Yeah, you've hit on all exactly the topics that we've been talking about here, Don. And the one thing that keeps coming to mind is, and it reverberates in what you've just said, is the support for Israel and the lack of confidence in the United States to deal with this thing politically. But I've seen this over and over again, right? I'm younger than yourself and JP, but coming from a military family, I've watched this play out, like you said, decade after decade. And I remember thinking in the 80s, we got to stop stifling Israel's ability to defend themselves, because every time this comes up, you said time is of an essence earlier in your statement. Time is of an essence, and the longer we wait, the longer Israel waits to take the action, the definitive action, to make sure that Hamas never does this again, the longer, or the easier it is for the rest of the world to say, well, you need to, kind of hold yourself and not do this and scale it back a little bit. But we've been telling Israel to scale back their response for 70 years. We've been telling them to not defend themselves. We've been telling them to back off. And they just need to be let loose to defend themselves and to make sure that it doesn't happen again. And we keep funding, like you said, we keep sending money over there to actors that are going to send it right to Israel's enemies. We got to stop all of that. And it's just a repeated thing, right? And as someone who spent a good portion of your career over in the Middle East, it's not going to end by capitulation, right? We can't capitulate to these folks. We can't let them get away with it and then just back off.
Yes, you couched it very well. We got to stop the flow of money. We got to stop this cycle, because what happens is, in previous administrations have done it. Trump administration, the previous administration under President Trump, because of Nikki Haley's
been like 2,000 years.
Yeah, exactly. And so that's the kind of stuff that we need to do, and it's not going to be done with this administration. Clearly, they have shown their ineptness in national security, and it's very, very unfortunate. And so we know what the right answer is. We just got to get a national security team in there that's going to do the bidding for the American people, secure our country, and make the world safer for everybody else. But we can do that without putting boots on the ground. We can do it with strong diplomacy. We can do it by following our values and our principles that we have abandoned from time to time to our detriment and to the detriment of others, as we have seen. But this is something we got to do. I have to go, but it's an honor to talk to you and JP, and the memory of Gary remains with me. I love the man, as you know, and I'm sad to see that him pass, but I think he's looking down, and he's pretty happy with what you guys are doing.
Well, all right. Thank you, Don.
Thank you, Don.
Appreciate it. Thanks.
Go do what you need to do. We appreciate your call, and we will talk to you soon.
All right. God bless you. Take care.
You too, sir.
The best to your listeners.
All right, that was a great call from Don.
It was. It was.
Regular viewers will know that he's a good friend of the show. He's been on with us many times.
I would have liked to had an opportunity to sort of ask him. We seem to want to delay the response of the United States. Israel could go in today, and they keep releasing a couple of people, a couple of captives, and that's just slowing Israel down. But I've heard them say that they're not going to let that be in the way. But to me, as it just seems like
a lot of the diplomacy
we're giving them more time.
Might be getting in the way of that. So I alluded to it earlier. You can't let somebody commit a crime and then they go back. Oh, I give peace, right? I want a truce.
Well,
right?
I think you
can't let them get away with it. It doesn't work that way because, and the fact is that that's actually what's actually happened in Israel between the West Bank and Gaza over the last 40, 50 years, and I've watched it with my own eyes.
Right.
Is that it's never been started by Israel. It's always been an attack by pro-Palestinian, the PLO before Hamas, and it's always been an attack, and Israel will start to respond, and then the rest of the world will say, whoa, we need to scale that back. Yeah, we got to stop that, because what happens is when that happens, we got away with it, we scored a victory, and death to America, death to Israel, and then they lull us into a sense of security, and then they do it again a couple years later, a couple months later, whatever. And we were talking about that before Don called in.
Yep.
That's kind of what Hamas did. They knew the technical capabilities of the Israeli intelligence agencies. Yep. And so they wired up all of those tunnels that we've been talking about with hardwired telephone lines that could not be intercepted over the airwaves. Yeah. And that's how they were communicating, old style, old school. And I think I've even said this before. We can't rely on technology in future wars. Because no matter how technologically advanced the power is, whether it be World War I, World War II, every war there's one side who has a technological advantage of the other. But the atrocities and the diligence that the lower technology side can produce
them, and the umpire runs out and says the next guy that does that is thrown out of the game. That's sort of our response with this. And
Yeah.
I know that's simple, but that's kind of how I thought about it. It was like, oh, okay, it's okay that they hit our guy, but we can't retaliate.
Right.
And I'm not. I want this to end peacefully. I don't want to see more deaths on either side, quite frankly. But they have a right to defend their country.
There's a difference between holding accountability and stopping it, right? So, Trump has said many times that, he's not really in support of the Ukraine or Russia. He just wants the killing to stop.
Right.
Right. And I think we all agree on that. That's probably you don't have to take a side. We have to end it.
Yes.
Right. We do have to do the same thing in Israel.
Yep.
But at the same time, you cannot let accountability go out the window.
No, I agree.
You have to deal with the accountability. And if we can go 40, 50, 60 years seeing that these terrorist organizations thrive inside of Gaza and the West Bank, we know that's not going to change until it gets filtered out.
With it. Yeah.
We need to get, and so we can't keep allowing ourselves, we can't allow the world to stifle Israel in their attempt to protect themselves and make sure that protection stays that way. Yep. They moved out of the Gaza Strip in 2007, and they've stayed out of it. The Gaza Strip has not been occupied for almost a decade.
Right.
Right?
Right.
All right. They were free to hold their own elections. They were free to govern themselves. They were free to take all the billions of dollars in foreign aid, humanitarian aid, and build their own infrastructure, and they didn't do it.
Right.
Right. And instead, this happened.
Yep.
So we know from history that's not going to change. So
No.
the only way to fix it and change it is to clear it out.
Yeah, and that's the approach the Israelis are taking.
And we need to go with that. We will see you next week.